through deathly uncomfortable silences and implicit demands for power and status.
That's all I'm saying. Strike while the samurai sword is hot.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
I've never seen a silence say I regret coming here so much.
Bitter about the whole defund.
Well, another thing that I would do differently.
Politician Andrew Yang deeply regrets going on this comedy podcast with Mark Normand and Sam Morill, or at least that's what he wants us to think. Through the twists, turns, and scalding emotional moments, we will unveil the true meaning behind Andrew's regret. Whatever you're thinking, it's not it, because believe it or not, Andrew is hiding a big secret, which is the source of all his outward regret. While on the journey of discovering this secret and witnessing the catastrophe unfold in real time, we will simultaneously learn the lessons of how to spot the exact signals that show us when we are making our counterparty uncomfortable, and also how to righteously smite down those who needlessly go past our limits and make us uncomfortable. If we do not know how to spot these signals or how to deal with someone who pushes us, then we have no chance at saving our relationships from being overran by a malicious third party. Being a politician, Andrew's every move is watched carefully by the public. Being comedians, Mark and Sam's every move is done in an attempt to push the limits of comedy. Before breaking down and revealing Andrew's secret psychological underpinnings for the way he behaves, there are three main causes that inspires Andrew's initial regret to start growing. See if you can clearly spot the first one.
Hey guys, I hear there's drinking on this podcast.
Yes.
You don't drink though, right?
Maybe some cursing.
Yes.
Few
Whatever you
fucks
want.
Given here and there.
Do you drink or no?
I don't really drink very much.
Andrew sets the scene and sends the implicit message to Mark and Sam that he knows this podcast is risque and is therefore something that he does not normally do. He then drops a strategically placed F-bomb. What he is trying to do with this is acknowledge that he is coming from a different world, and then send the message that he is one of the cool ones through the use of that intentional curse word. In this way, he attempts to bridge the connection between these two worlds. This attempt at building a bridge is confirmed because Andrew breaks out in laughter immediately after he says it. He is trying to trigger that communal laugh that would build the bridge, but we just don't see Mark or Sam reciprocate with their laughter. Mark and Sam likely didn't even notice the joke being made. Their lives are so dramatically different that a comment like that from Andrew doesn't seem edgy at all to them like it does to Andrew. This therefore causes Mark and Sam to miss the signal that Andrew put out to build the bridge. And this is the exact moment where Andrew begins to let the doubt creep in. When we begin to doubt the friendliness of our environment, we look for other verbal or nonverbal cues to either further confirm or deny our assumption. This is the exact moment where Andrew notices Mark's open body language, clearly coming into and taking part of his space.
Maybe some cursing.
Yes.
Few
Whatever you
fucks
want.
Given here and there.
Do you drink or no?
I don't really drink very much. I'm one of those people that if I drink, I go to sleep.
Aha.
It's probably a good thing in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Now, Mark's open body language is most likely unintentional, as Mark was open and relaxed pretty much the entire podcast before Andrew came on. However, Andrew doesn't know that. All he sees in his peripheral is someone in his space who just denied him laughter at his joke. Personal space is a deeply ingrained social boundary, and its violations can lead to automatic negative judgments about the person invading the space, especially if we are not familiar with them. When we take up the space of someone that doesn't fully know us yet, and when we ignore them in their attempts at shared laughter, they begin to think to themselves, they are taking up my space, and they didn't engage at my attempt at rapport. Perhaps there is a larger chance than I thought that they are being disrespectful towards me, which is why, to check further, Andrew immediately does this.
I don't really drink very much. I'm one of those people that if I drink, I go to sleep.
Aha.
It's probably a good thing in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky you. It keeps me up all night.
Andrew breaks another smile after saying, when he drinks, he goes to sleep. He is looking to build that bridge. He is looking for similarity, commonality, relatability, but most importantly, acceptance. But we just see Mark disagreeing. He's likely just speaking his truth and not doing it in an intentional way, but this really doesn't help considering the previous events that just transpired. The first cause of Andrew Yang's budding regret is that there is clearly a misalignment between the meeting of these two separate worlds of politics and comedy. Something is clearly not meshing. We'll go into the psychology of this misalignment very soon, but what's more immediately important is the power struggle that stems from this alignment. See if you can spot the second reason for Andrew's budding regret as he draws the firm line between being a leader instead of being a friend. If you like these videos, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You are the reason that I'm here.
This might be why you lost. You're dressed like hell. Come on, man. I'm just kidding.
I could have gone either way.
All right. No,
I thought if I had like jacket on, I'd feel very out of place.
that's true. No.
There is a philosophy many political leaders abide by. Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. From Andrew's perspective, they first refused his bridge, Mark is in his space for reasons he's not aware of, and now they jab him personally without having that initial rapport. So when that third time is struck, by Mark disrespecting his clothing, Andrew consciously doesn't laugh at all in order to send the implicit message that this is not what we are here to do, and if you are not cognizant or respectful enough to first meet me where I am, I will not go where you are trying to take me. Andrew purses his lips, literally holding back his negative reaction until Mark touches him slightly on the shoulder and completely surrenders. Andrew releases his laughter immediately in response to Mark's surrender, showing us that this allocation of power is exactly what Andrew was waiting for. Andrew was waiting for his power to be acknowledged, and even if his previous attempts at building bridges weren't successful, a public apology has the potential to mitigate the negative effects of almost everything that came before it. By Mark combining his apology with that sense of touch, it indeed serves in displaying a friendly respect, but it reveals a desire to be equals, and it leaves doubt behind the acknowledgement of formal power towards the person that was touched. For example, if you're at the bar and you pat your friend on the back while you apologize to them, it can serve in building that friendship back up. However, if you were to apologize to the president, you wouldn't pat him on the back like you would do with your friend, because that formal sense of power and respect is there as well. So while Andrew appreciates Mark's apology here, there is one more thing that he needs to do in order to ensure his formal respect, and that him, Mark, and the audience are on the same page. Andrew grabs Mark's shoulder in retaliation and holds it for a good few seconds, touching Mark for about 10 times longer than Mark touched him. Andrew sends Mark the implicit message that I acknowledge your apology and I forgive you, man, but you're also going to give me my due respect here, to which Mark says, you did the right thing, and he doesn't push any further.
We were just talking about how a crazy guy threw a rock at the actor Michael Stolberg. You heard about that?
No, I haven't heard the story.
Yeah. People are on drugs. A lot of people don't feel safe. I mean, I feel fine in New York. I love New York, but that's the reputation, right?
Never before seen throughout the entire podcast before Andrew came on, Mark now searches for space to the left of himself. In acknowledgement of giving Andrew that formal respect, he now allocates Andrew more personal space than he would give just his friend at the bar. Andrew makes a grab for power here by demanding to be treated like a leader instead of just a friend. This stems a power struggle that ripples and causes undue stress throughout the entire interview here on out. Before breaking down exactly how these skills can benefit your life, the third reason behind Andrew's budding regret is completely revealed in this next clip. See if you can spot the psychology behind the absolute clash of these two worlds.
A lot of people don't feel safe. I mean, I feel fine in New York. I love New York, but that's the reputation, right?
Sure. Well, I will say, I mean, I've lived here for a long time, and the vibe is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if nothing happens to you, you're like, I feel like something could have happened. Just
Yeah.
Andrew's laughing again, looking for that sense of relatability, and again we see the worlds collide. From Andrew's perspective and the world that he is coming from, saying something like this is quite edgy and risky, which is the source of his laughter and causes him to feel like he's confiding in Mark and Sam or talking to them about something secret. But for Mark and Sam, they don't even notice this attempt from Andrew because the edginess of a statement like that is something they hear on a daily, if not hourly basis. So Andrew laughs, looking for a reward for his riskiness, but he feels that Mark and Sam deny him once more, again potentially disconnecting that deeper connection. 5 minutes later, and Mark's body language is still exhibiting that formal respect towards Andrew. This is not the positioning that we saw from Mark Mark at all before the incident. After seeing what Andrew finds edgy and causes him to laugh, let us see how Mark demonstrates what he finds edgy, and how Andrew responds to it tells us everything we need to know right now.
Jesse Ventura, I mean, Trump was a fucking wrestling villain if you
That's
actually
true.
go back to
Remember.
it.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
a kind of anti-hero hanging out with McMahon and the crew.
Yeah, old shit chest McMahon.
People talk about The Rock all the time running for president.
Coming from completely separate worlds, their boundaries and their limits for what they consider edgy are completely and utterly different, ostensibly causing a grave disconnection as Mark almost has to brace for impact when he tells a joke. However, this next clip cues us into something that could potentially flip everything on its head. We get a first glimpse into the psychology behind Andrew's regret and how his refusal to engage may actually be premeditated.
I talk to comedians. I'm friends with different comedians, and I say, okay, which comedian would you nominate to run? And so who do you think they are? They say,
Jon Stewart, probably.
Bill Cosby.
get him out of jail. Is he in jail?
Mark jokingly says Bill Cosby, and his face immediately flinches in pain, feeling like he is once again going to be the cause of an awkward silence and rejection. However, Andrew lets his laugh slip here, revealing to us he understands and gets Mark's humor. It is because of this that we can deduce that his assertion of power through his silence and rejection is caused by something else entirely. We see Mark tilt his head in celebration after he gets the laugh, but his feeling of success will be very short-lived.
They're not there for your personal shit. They're there for the uplift and inspiration. So then you just freaking put it on.
The best example of that is W. Bush. When the 9/11 happened, he kept reading the kids' book. He was like, oh, yeah, so the bunny hops twice or whatever.
Well, they need to know how it ended.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Second tower. That's how it ended. But all right, sorry.
But you
Mark, feeling like he had the green light, makes a joke that is once again edgy to him. Thinking to himself, if he laughed previously at my edgy joke, that must mean he was just getting warmed up and comfortable up until then. However, this rejection of laughter here paints a completely new narrative that we will very soon uncover. We also see Mark back in Andrew's space, continuing this power struggle, perhaps forgetting the implicit demands that Andrew made earlier, but it looks like he quickly remembers and gives Andrew his space. We've seen the initial sign, the initial breakthrough, Andrew's laugh at Mark's edgy joke. He understands Mark's humor. He let a laugh slip through before, so why does he feel the need to shut down and disengage? Clearly he finds things funny, which actually ends up inspiring more regret from Andrew as he begins to feel like he showed too much emotion. Very soon, we will get more insight into exactly what is controlling him, as well as how we can personally benefit from the tactics that both parties end up using. However, before uncovering who is creating his limits and boundaries, we must first understand that regardless of who is creating them for him, he is still expressing a boundary here. See if you can spot all the personal signals Andrew puts out that is expressive of him reaching a severe limit. If you're a subscriber, check out the description for a free gift. I really think you're gonna like it.
So I think there is a little bit of veneer, but he is definitely the most honest so far.
Yeah, he manages to give off this quote unquote authenticity, even as he's bullshitting. And that was one of his innovations too. It's like instead of retail politicking in the early states, it's like, look, I'm just going to do the airplane hangar, land in my plane. I'm not going to sleep in your fucking state. I'm going to get back on my plane. I'm going to get back to my golden tower. Yeah. It's like my plane's right there, and I got off, and I'm going to get back on. I'm going to fly off while you guys wait.
Well, do you think not to get all politico on you, but isn't it a little weird that back in the 60s and whatnot, it was super democratic?
Andrew is laughing along with the guys, and the second Mark says, not to get political on you, Andrew literally begins bracing for impact. He drops his smile immediately when he realizes his vulnerability. Sudden deep breaths are often unconsciously utilized to display our growing anger or discontent as we subtly spark our adrenaline and trigger our fight or flight response. These sudden deep breaths are indicative of a complex preparation. Trying to protect himself emotionally, Andrew protects himself physically by tucking his chin. A rapidly tucked chin displays surprise and disagreement, and also sends the message that they do not wish to engage in conflict. Yet. When used in conjunction with the sharp and sudden deep breath, it reveals a deeply vulnerable emotional state with a simultaneous need to maintain composure. This signals to us both an internal conflict and a deeply cautious preparation. Andrew is taking on a cadence of complete emotional suppression, and we will soon figure out why. Mark uses the phrase "not to get political" as an indicator and a signal to Andrew that he is about to go deeper and get edgier than ever before. Giving this signal is a symptom of that formal respect that Andrew previously demanded from Mark. Andrew's complete disengagement at Mark's signal sends the message that the warning is not enough. This needs to completely stop. Andrew's laugh immediately before Mark's comment shows us that he thought what they were talking about was already edgy. So to hear Mark's signal completely throws him off, and Andrew throws himself into the acid vat of disengagement and projects silence throughout the entire room. Up until this point, Mark has backed off physically, giving Andrew that formal respect through his physical space. However, this conscious refusal to engage in Mark's edginess is Andrew's way of implicitly demanding that formal respect from Mark on a conversational level. Now see if you can spot why he begins using these cues for now a completely different reason.
Comedian I know knows every other comedian. You guys are on the same
we know
places.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's good times that way. And
You're
around the
probably
same
that
time,
way with most politicians. I would assume you know most of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am friendly with just about all of them. It's true.
This time, it is exhibited less as a signal of discontentment and more as a signal of deep preparation. He doesn't feel fully comfortable just speaking his mind, and it is because he doesn't trust where Mark and Sam are willing to take him. Andrew knows that this is high risk, high reward for him. Unlike the Keemstar video, where his physical preparation to a question revealed a desire for selfish and vapid gain, Andrew seems like he wants to connect, but there's a reason that we will soon uncover that requires him to be scarily cautious. In pursuing the question of how to completely discover and unveil the signals of personal limits and boundaries, watch how Andrew reacts to what Mark does next.
But I also got endorsed by Norm Macdonald around the same period.
What?
So I was like super grateful for that.
It's right there.
My hero.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. You know, he couldn't drive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's
can't
like
either.
a brilliant idiot. You know, he can't drive. He lived with his mom.
Mark touches Andrew here again, breaking the touch barrier for the first time in a long time. Andrew looks at Mark stone-faced, and Mark immediately removes his hand. Usually when someone touches us in joy, we instinctively share at least an impulse of that joy with them. Andrew's lack of response serves in communicating to Mark that this is not okay. Mark then brings up the faults of Norm Macdonald. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, he begins to disparage and discredit the accolade of having a Norm Macdonald endorsement. It is in this moment that we see Andrew's limit be reached once more. Andrew drops his smile in response and shows his true colors of rejection towards Mark, as he likely begins to think internally, why is this guy digging holes for me to get out of? As he begins to describe his campaign, watch what he does to get back in the driver's seat.
Folks like that, it was really awesome because they were people that I admired from afar, and then getting to know some of them and then having them get behind me. So where the f were you guys? No, I'm kidding.
I was on a gang train.
I was paying attention.
I was on there. I'm a fan.
Mark.
I'm
Our,
voting for you.
what year do you want? 16?
20.
Andrew makes a joke here and breaks out in laughter. Again, we see that Mark and Sam don't reciprocate, because they don't identify his statement as even remotely edgy like he does. However, inspired by Mark's previous touch to him, Andrew grabs and touches Mark here for about 10 times longer than Mark touched him, again, sending the implicit message that for however long you claim me, I am going to claim you 10 times longer. This gives us a clue into Andrew's master plan to soon go full out on the offensive. But before that, Mark pushes Andrew's limits once more without noticing Andrew's signals, which is what causes Andrew to eventually take on a fully offensive position. Spot the signals.
Michelle bought like a Vespa, like a European style Vespa. It was just freaking cruising around the roads and cornfields.
Yeah.
And then I got on the Vespa and I was like, hey, and I tried, did it on. Everyone got so nervous. I was like, what the f? You think I'm gonna like wreck this thing?
Asian driver.
I'm cruising.
Andrew walks directly into Mark's joke and has essentially set it up for him. However, he has done it accidentally, and we see him realize his mistake in real time as he disengages, flashing all of the signals that we broke down prior. This next one is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
When I was still...
Biden nearly got assassinated by a Schwinn, so we all saw that. Fell off that bike, remember that?
True, that's right. That didn't look good.
That did not look good.
Andrew completely disengages here, no longer bothering to send any signals. He is now exhibiting to Mark and Sam that he will sit in any level of uncomfortable silence for as long as it takes them to act correctly. And now Andrew's reaching the end of his rope. These signals are not enough. Through physical signals such as sudden breaths, protection of the neck, avoidance of eye contact, along with complete and utter disengagement, it seems Mark and Sam are still not able to get the message of Andrew's limits. And when we are not fully recognized and respected, we become fed up. Andrew has had enough and chooses to go on the offensive. Right before uncovering Andrew's true psychological underpinnings, here is where we learn how to deal with people who go past our extremes and also how to smite down those who go past our limits.
And so if you have the resources and it's literally your job and responsibility to deliver them, and then you're not delivering them promptly and reliably, then like people are just throwing their hands up, and that erodes trust pretty quick. Obviously, because you run for mayor and you think, wow, you know, what would I be doing? And I'll tell you guys a couple jokes. So when you run for mayor, cops come up to you all the time and be like, hey, Yang, if you win, I want on the security detail.
As Andrew takes a more dominant conversational position when beginning to talk about what he would do as a leader, Mark takes down his open body language and takes on a much more deferential position for the first time in this entire podcast. Knowing that this space has cleared up, Andrew takes the opportunity to be more dominant physically as well, as he touches Mark again and leaves his hand there, claiming some of Mark's space. This whole time, Andrew did not do anything like this, until he was provoked too much and his implicit signals were not listened to. We see that his extended touch towards Mark actually gets Sam to chuckle a little bit, most likely at the absurdity of everything that's going on right now. As Andrew begins to go on the offensive, see if you can spot the subtle retaliation in how Mark reacts.
Also, I think the cops are a little peeved, a little bitter about the whole defund.
Well, another thing that I would do differently is that...
Andrew claims Mark here again, after being in his space for the past 3 minutes, and for the first time all podcast, the fourth wall is broken. Mark retaliates and calls out his uncomfort by satirically looking at it like he is surprised. Andrew looks away while he does it, dismissing the reception of any nonverbal cue that Mark may send. Whether Mark's response was meant to be seen by Andrew, or by the audience, or by both, the implicit message from Mark here is clear. This is not natural, and is reaching the point of it being weird. However, what Mark fails to realize is that he is on the receiving end of an offensive mission by Andrew. Andrew's signals were not heeded by Mark earlier, so now Andrew feels justified in putting Mark in a similar position of uncomfort. Andrew is thinking internally, you did not listen to my signals, and now you will feel the heat of my wrath. Watch how he further goes on the offensive, and pay close attention to what that reveals, as we get closer and closer to uncovering the psychological underpinnings of Andrew's beliefs that got us in this situation in the first place.
What incentive do you have to be with the NYPD right now?
Well,
the impoverished neighborhoods get hurt the most by the no cops.
Well, you're talking about from the person's perspective, and you have to say, look, there's a good career here.
Here. Yeah, because cops used to be high-fived, you know, and now...
And I thank cops everywhere I go. Like, I see a cop. And I got to say, too, a lot of them recognize me, so then... it's like,
yeah.
You know, it's a good feeling.
Linsanity.
Everywhere I go.
Andrew touches Mark again, and for the first time in 10 minutes, Andrew takes his hand out of Mark's space to readjust his clothing. We see that the second he revokes his hand, Mark immediately takes advantage and tries to get in Andrew's space. However, Andrew has been so dominant over the past 10 minutes that when he goes to regain his physical space, Mark immediately retreats. Showing that his offense proved successful in sending across his message, 5 minutes later when things are a little more relaxed, Andrew then does this.
No show's gonna be perfect. No,
Of
humor's gonna be
course.
perfect. Certainly no comedian.
It's a comedy show.
But like
In the corner of his eye, Andrew notices Mark's hand come up, and in defensive and reactionary fashion, Andrew puts his arm up to claim his space just in case Mark was making a move. Through going on the offensive after not being listened to, and then remaining actively aware of future transgressions, Andrew is able to successfully smite down Mark because Mark does not make any more physical claims to Andrew's space for the entire rest of the podcast. Andrew has grabbed Mark as punishment and to assert himself all the way to the point of Mark breaking the fourth wall, all to send Mark the implicit message that I am in control here. However, after going on the offensive, Andrew says something to Mark and Sam that changes the course of the entire narrative. A cue into the question about the psychology behind Andrew's brutal silence and disengagement that we've been wondering all along.
I said this on Bill Maher one time. I was like, look, like a comedian's job is not to tell us how to think. A comedian's job is just to entertain us, and it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Whether he was setting this as an implicit message to Mark or he was just speaking his mind, we can deduce from this that Andrew likely carries no ill will towards Mark's jokes. We see Mark scratching his chin as he receives this message, confused, and rightly so, as Mark likely begins to think internally, why would he say this if he just went on a whole counteroffensive towards me because of my previous jokes? In his confusion, Mark feels the need to justify what he says next, and Andrew's response is completely perplexing, but not for long.
You can't judge someone by their worst moment and define them by that worst moment. It's fucking insanity.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
Yes, 100%. And it doesn't, bear with me here, but it's like they want to just take you down more than they actually care about the justice of it.
Oh yeah, no, they don't care.
That's what bugs me. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
one thing to try to save the world.
In his confusion and appealing to the power structure that Andrew originally demanded, Mark asks for implicit permission to go ahead with his comment when he prefaces it by saying, "Bear with me here." We see Andrew completely agree, touching Mark in approval. It is as if his previous regret was not his own, and now we are beginning to see Andrew's true feelings. Andrew gets Mark and Sam. He likes them and he thinks they are deeply talented. From this, we can now deduce that his regret is not his own. His unhappiness towards all previous jokes is not his own. His disengagement this whole time is not his own. But why? Why would Andrew Yang want to make it seem like he is regretting this when he's really not? Feast your eyes. Here is the moment where everything is uncovered. Here is the moment where we finally understand the psychology behind why Andrew Yang had to fake his distaste towards Mark and Sam's jokes this whole time.
I don't know what party you identify with right now, but like you were running as a Democrat and you don't see that forgiveness model to be something they really subscribe to anymore, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be the Republicans were the party of...
Andrew deeply inhales again as he begins to carefully walk the tightrope. We are about to reveal everything that we came for.
I think you should run again.
I agree.
Thanks, guys.
Asians are having a moment. They really are.
That's your bumper sticker. Andrew Yang.
Crazy
Asians are having a
Asians,
moment.
Alley.
You speak to a lot of different types of New Yorkers, I think.
Squid Game, Parasite.
That's not-
I mean, those aren't all.
This is getting worse.
Those are Korean. I know that's Korean, but I'm saying Asian. I'm just saying Asians are. This is your time, baby.
I mean, I do have a bunch of friends who are getting more work than they
That's all I'm saying. Strike while the samurai sword is hot.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Crimes.
All right. What about Epstein?
Yeah,
I'm just
I missed that one.
We would have all said yes to that plane ride. Let's be honest. If before we knew, I mean.
Happily, that was before my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the soundbite he wants.
Andrew stonewalls Mark for the first part of his first joke. But when Mark says Squid Game, he can't help but break a smile before disengaging again. Eventually, Sam has to pull Mark out of it, sarcastically saying, yeah, this is the soundbite he wants. And with that sentence, everything is revealed. Andrew's silence and disengagement this whole time has been tailored to how he will be perceived by potential bad actors within the audience. His disengagement is not about how he personally feels about Mark and Sam. Given that he previously confessed he thinks they are both intelligent and funny, and he had a lapse of seriousness and broke out laughing when Mark said Squid Game, these feelings of concealment are not meant to hurt Mark and Sam. No, they are meant to conserve his public image so that bad actors don't catch him in an unfavorable soundbite. Andrew recognizes that a good portion of Mark and Sam's humor would not be acceptable in the world that he is from. These jokes are edgy for Mark and Sam, but for Andrew, this humor is completely unacceptable in the world that he's coming from. The reason behind his disengagement is that he knows it will be a net negative for his career. If he were to engage in Mark and Sam's edginess, more people from his world would be pushed away from him because of it rather than drawn towards him because of it. However, this can all be disregarded if it is not confirmed on the back end. While Andrew begins to talk about having security guards as a politician, pay careful attention to the signals that show us confirmation of Andrew's true feelings once and for all.
You know, blah blah blah. But
Could you outsource it? Get a couple migrants? Hey, here's a cool 50 if you, stand near me.
um,
I'm just saying we outsource everything else. Why not? These guys need work.
Yeah. We'll pitch it.
Andrew again stonewalls Mark, but he follows it with something fascinating. He refuses to engage initially, but after a few seconds he breaks out into laughter, looking to avoid getting caught in any soundbite. This delayed laughter is further confirmation that the source of his disengagement is about the perception of the audience and not about how he feels personally towards Mark and Sam. He wants the public to know that he does not readily accept this type of behavior, but he also wants Mark and Sam to know that he still finds their jokes funny. It is this upcoming final confirmation, though, that puts the nail of certainty in the coffin.
What a load off.
you know what I mean? Like, you guys are on your way, and I say this mainly because you guys are talented. You guys are really good at what you do.
Thanks.
Jeez.
Really smart.
Did
Like,
not expect this to go this way. I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah,
No,
same.
no,
I should have donated more.
genuinely, I'm a fan.
Well, and run for mayor again, man.
Yeah, would you please? Run
Thanks,
for
guys.
something.
If I do, you guys are gonna have to come campaign.
We'll open.
We'll do shtick for you. We'll do a fundraiser.
I'll do the free range pedophile bit.
Oh,
out
my
of the
God.
Gate.
I'll do the sucking cock ice cream chunk.
Yeah.
We'll have you.
Can't lose then. Can't lose.
Andrew sincerely compliments them, and then it's followed with another disengagement. Andrew doesn't laugh with them emotionally, but what he does here tells us everything that we've been suspecting. He agrees with them, but in a deadpan way that shows he doesn't support it outwardly. Through this, it is confirmed that Andrew really likes Mark and Sam, but Andrew needs to protect his image because his image is his reputation, and a politician lives and dies on the reputation. Andrew Yang used physical preparation as signals for his boundaries and his limit. However, sometimes physical preparation is a signal of treachery and distrust. If we don't know how to discern which signal is which, we won't be able to save ourselves from falling into these traps. To witness this in real time and understand how a group completely loses trust for one of its members, click to watch the video on screen now for the complete breakdown. My name is Glidget Ronan, and I'll see you on the other side.